Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. So today we're going to talk about making labels with your Cricut machine to put in your bathroom to withstand all that water they might encounter in that area. So this video is sponsored by Cricut. However, all projects and opinions are my own. So I've been working in my bathroom trying to spruce up the place, adding some new containers, some new furniture, that type of thing. But as I'm getting organized, I want to add some labels to my space to keep everything looking really great. But the one thing about labels in the bathroom is, if you do printable labels or labels with pens, the water can really affect those. So we're going to talk about a few different ways to get around that. So we're going to make the standard vinyl label where you can apply vinyl to your containers. But I have a few tricks up my sleeve so that you can do printable labels and labels that you draw with pens right in your bathroom. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to use today. So you're going to need your Cricut machine, and then it's just going to depend on what kind of label you're making. So we're going to make some labels just with vinyl, and I'll probably use the white. Any color will work. I have a black here because I like neutrals, but literally any color vinyl you would like. And you would need transfer tape. And for this type of label, you can either put them directly on your containers, which we will do, or you can buy tags that you can put them on. And I'll link to everything I'm using below. So these tags they're just a plain acrylic clear tag, and they have a protective film on both sides. And when you remove that, they are 100% clear, which I love. And then you will need something like twine, ribbon, whatever, to hang these from your basket bin, whatever you want to put them on. So that's options for vinyl. Now we're also going to do where we write with a pen on paper and do a cut around where we write with the pen. And we're also going to do print and cut labels. So for those, you'll need cardstock. For the ones you write with a pen, you can use a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. Again, any color you would want. I'm going to use white. And then for the printable ones, I have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of white cardstock. Then to protect those and make them waterproof, I have a few different options for you. The first is adhesive, and it's a clear pocket that you can slide your label into. This can also be trimmed to size. So these are meant for the sides of binders, but we can also just cut this off to the size we need, slide our label in, whether printed or written with the pen, and it will help protect it from water. So this is one of my favorites, but a couple different options. So this is a keychain, and it's intended to slide your label inside of it to protect it. But we can take this keychain part off, use twine or whatever to hang it, slide that printable or written with a pen label inside, and it will help protect it. Same thing with this. It's a plastic. It's actually for ID cards, but it has a hole at the top we can hang it from, twine, ribbon, whatever, and slide that label inside. So these are just a few options to keep your labels safe from water, even if you want to use that printed or options with a pen, which I kind of like because they're quick and easy, and I can change them out easily just by sliding out the paper from whatever option I choose and sliding a new piece of paper in. A little bit easier than scraping off vinyl and applying new vinyl to me. So let's take a look at making each version of this label in Cricut Design Space. Alright, so I've already started making my bathroom labels, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing. So first I have some bins that I'm going to use for each member of our family to store their stuff that they use every day. For those, I just want to put an initial on those. So I just used a Cricut font. This is Ann Lee Extra Bold. And I made them the appropriate size for the containers I'm using. And so all I have to do is type the initial I want to use and make duplicates of this. And I wanted them all to be 2 inches tall so they'll match. So I made them all 2 inches tall, and I have all of my initials here for the 3 bins that I need. All right, so moving on, if you want to write labels onto cardstock and cut that cardstock out. This font is called Cake Basics, and I made it a writing style with a pen. And I typed what I wanted to type. You might have to adjust the line spacing to get the lines closer together. And then you want to make a square. So just do shapes and square, and you make it whatever size will fit into whatever you're going to use to put it into. So whether it's those plastic, hang tags, or the ones that stick on to your surface and you can just slide the cardstock in those. Whatever you want, just make this square the size you need. And you do that just by unlocking and then typing the dimensions you want into the box. Now that I have my square and my lettering, I'm just going to put them one over the other. If you can't see one, then just arrange and send to the back or send to forward, whichever one is applicable. And then we're just going to pick them both and align, and we are going to center those. Now, if you want your text centered, you do alignment and center. Totally up to you whether you want to do that or not. And then once I have both of those things done, I can just pick both things and click attach. And now I have a label that will be written with a pen and then cut out into a rectangle shape. So I can make as many of those as I would like. Now let's talk about print and cut labels. Again, I just made a square and I made it the appropriate size for whatever I'm going to put it into. And then you want to change it to the color you want it to print. So I'm going to do mine in white and black because I want a fairly neutral look to my bathroom. But you could choose any color here and it would print that color when printing. So I'm going to choose white. And then I have that same font, so the Ann Lee Extra Bold that I used for my initials. And then I just typed out what I want it to say. And now you can see I have the problem where it's behind. So I'm going to arrange and send to back, and now I can see it. And now you can just change this. So our label itself is 2.2, so I would probably make my text 2.1 wide, and I would leave this locked so that the height changes at the same time. And then I would pick those both, align, and center. And then again, you could center the text or not center the text by picking the text and choosing alignment. And then we're going to pick them both. This time we want print then cut. So we are going to pick them both and click flatten. That makes a label that will print. It will print the toothbrushes and toothpaste wording, and then it will cut around the white box. Now you can do this any size. So I showed you a couple of different sizes of plastic inserts that you could slide your labels into. So we could repeat this process for any size we wanted to and design whatever labels we would like in the sizes appropriate to whatever we're using. And we would just flatten each one of those to be a print then cut label. Now, I also showed you some acrylic blank tags that had a hole in them. And I would probably just put vinyl on those, so just permanent vinyl. And I would probably just size my vinyl to be the correct size. And I use the same font, that Ann Lee Extra Bold, and I centered it up. And I'm just gonna make this the same color as my initials here. So I would just leave this as black. So now we've designed all of these labels, let's go ahead and head to our Cricut machine and start cutting and, of course, doing print then cut. So now it's time to cut. So in that first shot, I actually had transparent and I thought it was a roll of white, but there was some white in this basic sampler. And I actually have a scrap that's large enough to cut on my labels. So I'm just gonna cut it out of this small scrap piece. And so we're just gonna feed it in. I'm using my Explorer, I have it set to vinyl. You can make this version of the label with any Cricut machine, and then we'll just press the go button to cut. All right, so now that this one's done cutting, I'll go ahead and I'll weed this, and then we'll come back and look at using transfer tape to add that to our labels. But right now, let's do the print then cut. So I went ahead and printed my design onto that white cardstock, and I'm doing 3 labels with this print then cut version. Remember, we can do any of these next versions with print then cut or with the pen. I'm just like doing a variety. And I'm going to put this on the cardstock setting and press the go to cut. So for the print and cut versions, you're only going to be able to use those with the Explorer or Maker machines. The Cricut Joy will not do print and cut. And what it's doing right now is it's looking for those registration marks around the outside, and now it will cut around each of our labels. And now that this one's done, we'll just remove this from the machine. And for these print and cut labels, you'll just want to flip your mat over, peel your mat back, and allow the label to come off of the mat. This will prevent them from curling up too much. Then finally, with our machine still set on cardstock, we'll add the pen to the pen holder. And a pen can be used in any Cricut machine, so these labels will be good in any Cricut, including the Joy. And then we'll just load our mat with plain white cardstock and click the go button to start. And then when that was done, so it drew my design and then it cut around the outside, and then we'll just remove it from the Cricut machine. And then the same thing with removing these. We'll just flip that over. Then you just peel the mat back, allowing the labels to fall off so they don't get as curled. Now let's take a look at assembling some of these labels. So first up, for my vinyl, I weeded my designs, and then you can use the same piece of transfer tape for multiple labels. So I'm just going to peel this back, and we're going to start with this bin, and you just want to burnish well on both sides, peel back your backing paper, and then add the label right to the bin. Burnish it down well and peel back that transfer tape. So that's a super easy way to add those vinyl labels. They are a little tougher to take off later, but they are extremely durable. So then I can just use the transfer tape, put it on the next one, and label my next bin. Next up, let's take a look at our labels that were printed. So all I'm going to do with those is drop those inside of these clear plastic containers. So this one is meant for a name badge, and you can just drop in your label, and it's ready to add some twine to the hole and use as a label in your bathroom. Then these are actually key rings, and I removed the key ring portion so I could use twine instead. And now we can just push in our label through the slot, and it's ready to go. And anytime you want to remove it, you can just remove it and replace. And remember, so I'm using printed labels on both of these, but you could also use the ones where we use the pen to write inside of these as well. Doesn't matter which, it just depends on which way you prefer and which look you like. So now with the labels that we wrote with the pen, what I'm doing, these are a little too long for my drawers themselves. So whichever end is open, I'm just trimming that off a little bit and cutting into smaller labels. And then I can just pop these into that open end. And then once they're inside of there, you can just peel and stick them onto any surface. So it's a great way to protect that label, but it's super easy to change out. You would just pull out the label and stick a new one in. So I'll just repeat with the rest of my labels, and then I can start labeling my drawers. All right, so let's add vinyl to these clear acrylic blanks. So some of these I actually took my Crocodile and put 2 holes in because those will work better on my baskets. Other ones, I just need the 1 hole, and we're just going to take our transfer tape, and just like the containers, we're just going to apply the vinyl, and I'm just going to apply it to the front of these clear tags. So I will admit that I had to change the font on these smaller tags. The font I used for the larger just baskets with the initial really didn't work. With the smaller font, with the smaller label, it just it was tearing up. So I just gave up on that. And so I just picked the same font that I used as my writing font on my other labels. And then we'll just put these directly on these acrylic tags. Burnish it down well once again. And peel back that transfer tape. So just that easily, we have another tag that can be used in the bathroom. So now let's head to the bathroom and see how I'm going to use all of these tags. All right, so now that we've made tons of these cute labels, let's head to the bathroom and let's put them into place. And you can take a look at everything I've been working on over the past few weeks. So now labels are in place, the bathroom is looking great, and hopefully it will stay that way because I'm organized and labeled with my Cricut machine. So I hope you enjoyed these tips and tricks on making those labels last a little bit longer in areas where there's moisture. So I did this in my bathroom, but you could definitely do the same thing in a kitchen, a pantry, anywhere where there's tons of moisture that might affect the quality of your labels. Try these tips and tricks for keeping them out of those areas. Like simple tips and tricks like putting them into these little sleeves will help them last a while longer, and they're so easy to change out. So you just print and cut new ones, pop these out, pop new ones in, and you're ready to go if you want to change things up in the future. So I hope this helped you. If it did, give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, please leave those below. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have Cricut videos every week, and I know you don't want to miss any of those. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.